What? Hope you guys like the pink lighting in the background. That's it's because I'm in the mood for love, baby. Thesis. Tonikaku Kawaii is a pure love romance story that inverts the mainstream premise of what we usually think about when we talk about jun'ai. So what's that? If you ever look for romance manga, you might come across this term, jun'ai. It means pure love. And for the most part, it's used colloquially. Here, it's mentioned as part of Shonen Jun'ai Gumi, and here there's another example where the thread poster is asking for more pure love stories. In general, it just means a stubborn love, a steadfast love, an honest love, an untainted love. But let's hang on that last one there, because it brings up a central question. Untainted from what? In the early 2000s, there was a flurry of romance stories for men and women where characters fell in love, often for the first time. They call it Hatsukoi, and that's usually a big sign you got some big jun'ai energy. And the romantic development is about overcoming and calcifying the relationships. But once it's confirmed, that relationship is, or cannot, be fully formed, because the story just kind of ends there. From here, the word jun'ai had a different connotation. It was a genre of its own, where the development, keyword development, of romantic relationships becomes the focal point. Scholar Alisa Freedman talks a bit about this in Debating Otaku in Contemporary Japan. When these romantic relationships are solidified, the stories end, or characters die, before the love can become soiled with more mundane aspects of domestic life. These stories end up having a lot less focus on otekaru na kankei, or casual dating shit. And they were big. In the early 2000s, one of the best-selling books in Japan was a pure love story. It was Katayama Koichi Sekai no Chushin de Ai wo Sakebu, or Socrates in Love. And that's central to it. Domestic life or the lack thereof. Though we do have examples of love stories incorporating romantic relationships alongside the subsequent domestic life, the pure love mentality more so is that characters have grown up in the process of finding out their loves. And the stories end, because everything after that is just unromantic and boring. That was the idea. Sometimes it backfired horribly. We sometimes forget that one of the big jun'ai stories was Densho Otoko, and it was massive. Its final episode drew, and I quote, 25.5% of the national audience. To many, the story implied that otaku grew out of their otakudom by falling in love, because, well, that's what's supposed to happen. And in Densho Otoko, once their relationship solidified, the story just ends, because now they gotta navigate mundane life, and you don't want to see that, right? In fact, it made the term moe so ubiquitous that many otaku swore off the word altogether out of disgust. Tonikaku Kawaii o kaimashou. I'm really sorry, I wanted to do that. So how does this relate to Tonikaku Kawaii? Well, it's a pure love show, right? That argues that the earnest, honest purity of pure love isn't one just because of mundane life, but that mundane life reshapes it. It becomes a sort of mutation of a new sort of romantic purity. Kenjiro Hata isn't a stranger to romance stories. Though it was largely a gag comedy, Hayate the Combat Butler was in effect a story that's kicked off by a meet-cute misunderstanding, and spoilers, the story does end with Hayate and Nagi walking off hand in hand. And given that Hayate the Combat Butler began serialization the same month as the novelization of Densho Otoko, Hata was, in fact, publishing in the shadow of these pure love stories. And Tonikaku Kawaii is sold as jun'ai. I mean, hell, eBooks Japan markets it as pure love, and it does focus on growing up together in a romantic sense. But its emotional battleground doesn't happen in usual pure love spaces. It's not like they meet at the school ground. In fact, it explicitly rejects that premise. Nasa dropped out of school.
当然トップ合格だけど、高校に行く気にはなれず、辞退した。
And the story doesn't lead up to and end with the romantic confirmation. They're already in a relationship. The courtship doesn't happen preceding the hand-holding or the kiss. It's all a part of it. And Nasa doesn't confess at the very end once he's broken past this TV drama stoicism. But my man just comes barreling out the gate.
君が好きです。
It has all the energy of a pure love story. The first meeting, the Hatsukoi, the ruminations. But it's all backwards. The text focuses on settings that are usually considered external to the pure love genre. For instance, once you get into a relationship, you move in together, and, that's boring shit, right? You don't show that. Unless you're Seo Koji. But Tonikaku Kawaii in an inverse is all that. It's all about these domestic spaces in which the relationship is nurtured. Domesticity isn't a place they reach after they've grown up. Domesticity is where they grow up. And you can see how the text often brings their ages to the foreground, like when they're going to hand in their marriage papers, or when they need to find a bigger place. These are, in effect, the things that adult couples should be doing. But they're still, reasonably speaking, children. And they're learning how to do it together.
愛が証明されたから結婚するんじゃない。愛を証明するために結婚したんだ。
And it's no surprise that it lingers for so long on the Kaguya imagery, because while it never explicitly states it, as far as I can remember, the tale of the bamboo cutter in many respects has the vibe of a sort of proto-love story. So if you've read it, Kaguya casts off the suitors via these insane tasks, but develops a genuine romantic affection for the emperor. But they never really get together, because she goes back to the kingdom on the moon, and they have, in effect, this sort of magical, pure love that's never sullied by the supposed stagnancy of mundane life and court life, etc. Yada yada. But Tonikaku Kawaii, like everything before, flips that premise around, because Tsukasa doesn't go back home to the moon. Her home is here. She finds her home.
あとどれくらい歩けば、私は誰かの待つ暖かな家に帰り着くのだろう。
In this sense, Tonikaku Kawaii presents a different viewpoint. That the mundaneness of romantic life isn't something to be discouraged, nor is it something achievable after one has grown up, but it's a central component of the romantic relationship. And thus, this is where its inversion occurs. It's pure love. Not just because some ebooks Japan or some guy says so, but because it's about the same general ideas. Growing up, being whisked off your feet, and overcoming obstacles and finding out where you belong in the world and who you belong with. But that occurs dominantly in the space that pure love stories have often undermined, ignored, or treated as antithetical to its form. Thus, in this sense, it acts as a time capsule, a space that reflects a particular period in sort of romantic genre history. But it's an inversion of that. It's a backwards time capsule. It flips the whole thing around. And I don't know exactly what it might be trying to do, and, Kenjiro Hata has not been particularly clear as to what he wants to do with it, but for the most part, that's just what it seems to be doing. So this video format I'm working on is called a strain note, singular. And it's essentially a video format I'm working with where sometimes I don't have a big argument or something that I think is particularly clean or clear with regards to what it is I want to say. I know I say that just as I literally have a thesis at the beginning of this video. But it's just like a little rumination of sorts, right? Because sometimes there are a lot of times where you watch a show and you don't really have anything particularly huge to say about it. You just have a few off comments and whatnot, and so you kind of want to express it, but you don't really have much to say. I'm sorry. This, you can clearly tell that this part is completely unscripted. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this particular section of it. If you have any issues or any questions or concerns, let me know in the comment section. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Click on the bell. This video has been brought to you by to Patreon, not the site. But it's members, patron members. That's right. This is the end of the video.